This is the Clackamas River. We're taking out at Moore Creek. Normal put-in is hole in the wall, but you can go all the way up to sandstone if you want to. It's just past the Oak Grove Powerhouse at the Indian Henry Trailhead turnoff. If you're putting in at hole in the wall, you can skip to the 5-minute mark of the video. Just downstream of the put-in, on the right side of the island, you have this warm-up rapid. In a raft, you have to make sure you don't get pushed to the outside of the bend, especially at higher water. Those rocks there can be trouble. In a kayak, it's pretty easy to stay off of them. Right after the warm-up, you got the first major rapid. It's called Powerhouse. I don't have any rafting footage of this one, but at lower water, the trick if you're rafting it is the entrance here just gets very technical, staying off of rocks. The rafting company I work for doesn't run it below 1,000. I've rafted it down into the 800s before, and there is a line, but if you doink one rock, you get spun out and end up getting stuck pretty badly, so you have to be really careful. At higher water, the trickiest part is definitely the bottom here. That pillow of water off that wall there gets pretty big, and you just need to make sure you get pushed to the left. You don't get pushed into the eddy on the right or flip off the wall. It's quite a ways from Powerhouse to the next named rapid. Using that upper put-in, it does add a couple real nice rapids to the trip, but they're pretty spread out. You get a lot of unnamed stuff that, like this spot in here is pretty technical in a raft. Like as the water gets low, there's just a lot of rocks coming out. At higher water, there aren't as many rocks, but it's a lot pushier, so it always feels pretty technical, but it's moving slow enough that it doesn't feel that thrilling. The next named rapid is called the Narrows. It has a long, wavy entrance that doesn't look too different coming into it from a lot of the other nondescript stuff you've been seeing, but as you're coming down through the waves, you'll see that the riverbed gets narrower in front of you. It sort of drops into a little basalt gorge. At higher water, it's pretty pushy coming into that narrow spot. There's some big waves, and you can get spun out in the eddy lines pretty easily. A lot of big eddy lines in this gorge here. At lower water, you basically just have to make sure you don't get jammed into the rock over on the left. After another spell of unnamed rapids, you'll come to a rapid called Maze. Maze has a big rock formation at the top. I'm going left of it right here, and then another one at the bottom, which I go right of. At higher water, you can go either way around either of those rock formations. In a raft at lower water, this one gets kind of technical. You want to enter on the right, and I stay pretty far right, so I catch a piece of this eddy on the right here to slow me down and get me ready for the move to the left. And then as soon as I'm clear of this rock up here, I push left a little bit. You can push all the way left and go to the far left line. It's probably a little easier, but I like to thread the needle between these rocks down here. I think it's a little more fun, and you don't have to do quite as much paddling. There's another section of slower stuff before the next named rapid, which is Roaring River. This one can be hard to recognize coming into. If you're looking up at the highway, there is a brown sign that says something like Roaring River Campground, quarter mile, but if you're just looking at the river, it can be hard to tell that you're coming into it. This left line here is the low water line. In a kayak, it's not too hard. In a raft, there can be a lot of water pushing into those rocks on the left there, so it can be tricky to shoot the gap between the rocks on the left and that island there. This is about 1900 CFS. You can run that left line at this level and higher if you want to in a raft, but it just gets a lot harder. Like the faster the water is going, the harder it is to just line up for that slot between the left wall and the rock there. Frank is running the right line, which is a really good option at high water. It just makes it a lot less technical. Here it is at 930 CFS. One thing about water levels, 2 grand is not particularly high water for this river. It's pretty common to get up to like 8 grand in late winter, early spring. I've run it up to maybe 4 grand, but I don't have any footage of it at higher water. You do want to run the left line at these levels, but it's a pretty easy level for the left line. It's not too pushy anymore, so it's not hard to stay off that rock. But as the water gets lower, these rocks that I'm just sliding over right here will catch you and try to spin you out, and that can send you into that rock over there too. This is a pretty tame flow for this line. After Roaring River, you're pretty close to the hole-in-the-wall access point, so if you're using the lower access, that's where you'll start. This is the final rapid before hole-in-the-wall. It's another one that gets pretty shallow and hard to navigate as the water gets low, but that's pretty much everything on this river. The lowest I've seen this river is about 700 CFS, so when I talk about low water, lower lines than this, I'm talking in the 700s. Immediately after the hole-in-the-wall boat launch, you've got this bend to the left here. You've got to navigate your way through some of these shallow rocks. At higher water, if you are on the outside of the bend, the current kind of pushes you towards some rocks coming up here on the right, and you can pick your way through them. It's not that big a deal, but it's a little easier if you stay to the inside of the bend. Then at the end of the straightaway, you got hole-in-the-wall rapid. For this one, you can get pretty close to the rock. You just want to ride the pillow off to the right. You don't want to flip off the rock or end up in that eddy to the left of the rock there. That eddy is the hole in the wall, and there's actually a chain ladder hanging off one of the rocks on the bank there, because if you swim and end up in that eddy, it can be impossible to swim back out of it, so you have to climb out. In a raft, I'm just waiting until I'm clear of these shallow rocks on the right here, and then driving to the right. At lower water, you don't need to drive to the right too hard, but you do need to make sure that you get far enough right that you're getting pushed right of that rock and not having to high side off of it. After hole in the wall, there's quite a bit of unnamed stuff. Then you're going to go under a big green bridge, one of a zillion on this river. They all look the same. There's a real calm pool, remnants of an old boat ramp on the left, Fish Creek coming in on the left, and at the bottom of the pool, you got Fish Creek Rapid. The crux of Fish Creek Rapid, after a long, wavy lead-in where there's not much going on, you got some rocks on the right that start to make an obstacle as the water gets low, and then you got to drive to the right. There's some water pillowing off the bank, and just like a lot of the other rapids on this river, you're getting to this time the right side of the pillow, so you get pushed off to the right. Here it is in a raft, 1,000 CFS. This is the crux part. You just kind of wait until you're clear of these rocks on the right, and then I like to put my nose just a little bit in this eddy right here so it helps move me to the right and keep me off that rock wall. There's one little ripple between Fish Creek and Armstrong. Armstrong, you'll see another big green bridge downstream of you. You're just starting on the right-hand side and then kind of driving left to stay off of the right bank. Here it is in a raft at 930 CFS. This entrance here gets pretty technical as the water gets low. It's really easy to get stuck up on all these little rocks in here. At this level, it's kind of tricky, and it gets much harder as it gets down into the 700s. Here's that drive to the left. At this level, you don't need too much momentum, but if you get real close to the bank, there's pour-overs or rocks depending on the flow. You've got this one little rapid between Armstrong and Carter. In a raft, I'm always trying to run it about as far right as it looks like I can get my raft without running up on rocks. There's a lot of water pushing into the wall on the left, so as the water gets lower, you have to run it further and further left, but the current's also less and less powerful, so you have more time to get away from it. Around the next corner is Carter. This is one of the best rapids on the run. There's this giant ledge that takes up most of the river, and the main move in here is being left of that ledge and then driving right. At high water, it's really pushy, and it's really important to be on top of the moves. Like that bend at the top of the rapid, just coming into it, you want to be on the inside, the left side, so that you're set up for the ledge hole. And then you want to be driving right, like as you're passing the ledge hole. You got to start getting your momentum going to the right so you don't get pushed into the left bank or there's some holes over there. At lower water, it's not nearly as pushy, so it's not as important to really be on top of all those moves. This is about 1,000 CFS. When the water gets lower than this, there's like a pour over that starts to form right about here. So if you hit that pour over, you want to be really square to it. You don't want to have a lot of right-hand angle hitting the pour over, or else you can drop people out the left side of your boat. In a kayak, you can run the exact same line. That's the easier line. You can also boof that ledge hole in the middle. At 1,000 CFS, it looked a little low for it. It looked like it would be kind of scrapey going in there. I was actually going to go for it at 2,000 here, but I didn't line it up right. I was too far to the left. I haven't kayaked this river that many times. I've only kayaked it about 5 times, but I've rafted it a lot more. But I've boofed it at like 3,000 CFS, and it's a big boof. It's definitely a bigger line, but it's a lot of fun. There's a couple fun play holes in the run out here that you can catch too. Like this one here is good, and there's another one down below it that's pretty fun. But yeah, it's a great rapid. After Carter, the river takes this bend to the right here, and as the water gets low, you want to be pretty hard left so that you get left of you can see there's a gravel bar off to the right there. If you're out in the middle, you'll get stuck on it. Next rapid is Slingshot. It's pretty straightforward, just a wave train. You want to stay in the middle of it. In a raft, you want to hold your angle there. You don't want to get pushed into those rocks on the right. Um, Getting spun out in the eddy on the left wouldn't be that big a deal, but staying in the current is smoother. It'll be a little while after Slingshot before you get to Big Eddy. There's some shallow shoals in there. Big Eddy starts pretty shallow too. At low water, you want to be over on the left here. And then the main part of the rapid is this wave train here. At 1,000 CFS, it's pretty tiny. At higher water, though, those waves get pretty big, and the eddy lines on either side get really sharp. I actually had some friends flip a raft just by slamming into one of those eddy lines there at maybe 3,000 or 4,000 CFS. They might have been pretty unlucky to flip, but those eddies are strong enough that if you end up in them, it's pretty annoying. Right after Big Eddy, like just around the corner, you got Rock and Roll. This one's got kind of a technical entrance. That gap between those two rocks there is, I feel like, the best place to enter it at pretty much any level. As the water gets higher, you can't really see those rocks as well, but I still try to find that same spot. This line works pretty well too, just a little bit farther right. I haven't been there that many times, but I've seen people run it at a pretty wide range of water levels, and it doesn't look like there's any problem with it at all, so that's another great option. Here's what it looks like from inside a kayak. This is 2,000 CFS. I'm lining up for that same slot there, and that basically just sets you up pretty well for the rest of the rapid. There's some more waves down here. There's this steep part near the bottom, but yeah, it's that slot just kind of puts you right where you want to be. Here it is from inside a raft. This is 930 CFS. At lower water, you want to come in pretty close to the rock on the right there. If you take a look to the left, there's some shallow stuff there that you can get caught on if you're too far left in that gap. And then keeping it straight, at this bottom ledge here, as the water gets lower and lower, you see there's that rock sticking up just to the left. There's some water humping over it. I've seen a lot of people fall out of rafts from boats getting their left tube up on there. Just a little ways on around the next corner, you got Toilet Bowl. It's one of the best rapids, I think. Down at the bottom, there's some really big waves at high water. At lower water, there's this hole on the left side that you want to get right of. 1900 CFS. At this level, you can probably enter pretty far to the right. I know when it gets higher than this, you can. It's kind of more straightforward to start right and stay right, but the low water entrance is on the left. You're coming down through here, watching out for the shallow rocks on the right, and then making a move to the right when you get the chance. Going through some big waves. Yeah, big waves coming up at the bottom here. Just keeping it straight. Lots of fun. As the water gets lower, you got to make sure you don't get right too early. You can get pretty badly stuck if you do. First thing I'm trying to do is making sure I'm just left of this rock coming up here. That's kind of my key for the entrance. Then there's a lot of shallow rocks on either side. Like I make sure I'm right of these ones on the left here, but then you kind of have to wait for a while because there's a lot more shallow rocks over on the right that it can be hard to see, but if you try to make that move too early, you'll get stuck on them. For the big hole at the bottom, you can drive right of it. It is a really big hit, but sometimes if I don't make it all the way right, or if I just want the big hit, I tee up to the right corner of it. And yeah, it's better to hit it straight on than sideways if you're going to hit it. Here's the same move at 990 CFS. I got just a little farther right this time, and it wasn't nearly as big a hit. Maybe the 60 CFS made a little difference too, I'm not sure. Pretty shortly after Toilet Bowl, you got Bob's Hole. This one's a great surf feature for a kayak, and 1900 is a prime flow for it too. You can surf this wave coming into it if you want to. It's fine, it's nothing special, but the main event is if you eddy out on the left down below here. Really fun surf. You can spin around and around and around in it. I don't own a playboat, so that's all I do really, and I'm not very good in a playboat either, but it's just a really fun feature to play around in. A little bit higher, like 3,000 CFS, it didn't really look like you could surf it at all, and there's definitely no eddy service there. If it gets lower, like 1,000 CFS, it's still a pretty good surf, but it's not as good as at 2,000, and it's a lot trickier to get to the hole from the eddy. Like it's a pretty technical move, and it's actually kind of fun doing that move, but the surf itself just isn't quite as good. One last option is you can surf this wave up here. You just kind of come out the top of the eddy, and it's just fast fun, keep the boat straight. It's not as good as the hole down below it, but it is another fun option. In a raft, this rapid, at higher water, that hole could definitely flip a raft, so you want to if you're going to hit it, you really tee up to it and charge into it. As the water gets lower, you still want to hit it straight, but it's less of an issue. It's just kind of a fun little rapid. Next rapid is called Nemesis. It's a little ways down from Bob's Hole. At high water, it feels very easy. You just go right to that rock right there. I guess, if you stop paying attention at the end of the rapid, there's a rock down below it that sometimes you don't notice it till you're right on top of it, so you just got to be wary of that. In a raft, this is another one with one of those long, shallow lead-ins that you got to deal with at low water. The crux move gets pretty scrapey as well as you're going to the right of this rock here. There's a couple really small rapids after Nemesis, and then as you come through this riffle here, you're coming up on the takeout. It's in a cove on River Right, just up ahead here. And that's the Clackamas.